had perished on a vessel while attempting to get to another destination, while others had remained on island but have not been seen publicly for some time, as was the case initially. The opposition MP said that while the government is seeking to establish a relationship with the African continent, we cannot have another Antigua Airways debacle. Pringle said, following the drownings of several West Africans while attempting to leave Antigua, the nation is still awaiting official updates from the government regarding the well being of the remaining individuals. He said several questions remain unanswered, including what exactly transpired and how many individuals are still present in the country. Pringle recounted that efforts were made to get assistance from the Governor General to initiate a probe into the incident, but he was told that the Attorney General was investigating the matter and he will provide a report. However, the opposition MP is asking what has happened to this investigation and why a report has not been made public. He said in quote, and again, Mr. Speaker, we have to understand that while establishing these relationships, we cannot, Mr. Speaker, have another situation like what we encountered with the Antigua Airways. Because, Mr. Speaker, I realize the government is quite silent on this matter, but we would have had at least some 900 Africans come to the shore of Antigua and Barbuda, and it is a sad case because the Prime Minister tends to blame the opposition for everything that is happening in Antigua and Barbuda. In response to Pringle's queries, Prime Minister Gaston Brown reiterated that the government made efforts to facilitate the West Africans by allowing them to remain here and be integrated into society, while calling the MP's timing opportunistic. Brown reminded that at least two international organizations would have investigated the matter. He said, in quote, we offered 2 charter planes to take them back. In fact, there was a charter flight that came here to take them back to Lagos, and they refused to board the flight. We then decided out of humanitarian interest to give them stay here and to assimilate them into the domestic economy. At the time, we invited the IOM, that is the International Migration Organization, as well as the UNHCR to interview each of these migrants and determine whether or not they are indeed refugees. And evidently, states have an obligation to treat refugees in a particular way.
Yeah, we have a caller.
Okay, caller, go ahead. You're live on Island T.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you doing this morning?
You're here giving God thanks,
Amen.
Yeah.
because we have a lot to be thankful for. I learned last night. You remember Culture?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He used to be calling in quite frequently. I heard that he's doing poorly.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So I'm sending out get well greetings to him and his family.
Yeah.
Because, we as my man there said, 9 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People participate and then you don't hear.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
And sometimes we ignore. Then we have a lot of excitement when we hear the funeral,
Well, culture always has a sense of humor, and he
A very good one too.
He always
And on this the moment he could make up something.
Yeah, and he always tells us that he's a good batter. He has been batting for a long time, so we wish him.
Yes, because he's a double amputee.
Yeah, we wish him the best
Oh,
because
boy.
he has been struggling and.
Then you know what happened. Some of them in some of the areas, the radio stations cannot be picked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was wondering, but I kind of knew why we couldn't hear some people because of the radio station, but
Well, in his
it's sad to hear.
area right now, they should be picking us up from the back of.
We just want to send words of encouragement to the wife,
Yeah.
the family members, and other people out there, because every time you put on the death announcements, there's so many people that you would have known.
Yeah.
So all of those who are grieving, my heart reach out to you. The Bible says God is the God of all comfort.
Yeah.
Now, this issue of forgiveness. This morning I was listening to a station, and they were talking about forgiving people. And I find it very interesting because the Bible says we have to forgive, eh? But most of us have difficulty doing it. And the truth is, we are only hurting ourselves. Raise up the blood pressure every time you see the person. Some people would have done you wrong, done your family wrong, and some of us say, oh, well, I will never forget them. Never forgive them. You're only hurting yourself. Because the feeling will come, No, they do me so and so. God tend to do me that. She's not going to get away with it. Some of us go even further and seek retaliation by trying to destroy the other person's name. Tell everybody what they know about you, what they don't know about you. And some people make enemies from you for nothing, I have some of them just because why should I keep up the radio? And you know what I mean? But I forgive them because the Bible said if you don't forgive people, God ain't gonna forgive you. You could sing all the sing, pray all the pray. If you got people in your heart, you're not gonna see God. Because He forgave. So I'm encouraging all of us. You got to some enemies you have made. Some of them have made themselves your enemies. Some have done you some hurtful things. Even when you come to the slave trade and so. Oh, me saying we on the other side, not on the other side. The Bible says forgive them, not only forgive them, and to know. The Bible says God said vengeance belongs to me. And if you really study the history, you will see. You will see that God takes revenge for you. And He does a better job than you. Because empires have come. They thought they could not be taken down. And one by one, what happened to the British Empire? What happened to the French? You understand what I'm saying? They will eventually be pulled down. So it is for us to forgive them. Forgive them don't mean you say, well, what they do was right. That's not forgiveness, Forgiveness acknowledge that I have been wronged, but I am going to forgive the perpetrator because God requires it of me. So that's what I want to say. So a lot of us are walking around. Since in school days, when she was in school, I remember I used to have a little case. When you were, I think it must be grade 2 or 3, in those days, you buy a sugar cake. And the person who bought the sugar cake, there is a pinch off, they call it pinch off, right?
Yeah.
And then the whole class one piece of the sugar cake. And I recall this friend of mine, the friend was sharing. And it was my good friend, but the person went in front of me and got and I didn't get. And for a long time I didn't say anything to her. It's when I tried to say that we would talk and say, but no close communication. And I said that didn't make no sense. You and somebody not going to communicate because they did you that. And so we need to go to our own mind, go to our own heart. Somebody's palm and your labor and PLP and you hate. You're only hurting yourself. I know what it is. You're only hurting yourself. And sometimes you carry the thing further. Oh, well, contents your dear, well, they go for your husband, and they go for your cousin. You know what I mean? We do more harm than good when we refuse to forgive. So I'm encouraging all of us. A lot of people die, even though they die in bed, and not going to forgive Sylvia, and not going to forgive. Really? We are not going to see God. You could do all what the Bible says, and you don't forgive, you're not going to see God. So that's what I have to share.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you for your contribution as usual.
Yeah.
Have a great day. Yeah. But the same story with the young lady. She's supposed to speak in coming weeks. I want to know because her family presumed she was dead for the 3 decades and so that she was missing. So
she was kidnapped as a child?
That's she was 24 when she went missing.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay.
because she's 56 now.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're not sure. And I'm still I'm looking, I'm hunting. I don't hear anything else. Like everywhere is 9 days. I was looking for an update on the young 9-year-old that was killed in Antigua. I don't hear anything on that anymore. They said the autopsy was inconclusive. That's the last thing I heard. And in Jamaica, the 9-year-old that was killed, I heard the perpetrator or the alleged suspect was shot dead by police. Good morning, caller. You're live on Island T.
Good morning to everybody and greetings once more in Jesus' name.
Greg,
From the sins and
Greg,
from hell. Hello?
Greg, hold a minute.
Mm.
Do me a favor.
Mm-hmm.
Hang up right now and call back.
No problem.
Okay.
Good. No.
Yeah. Go ahead, Hortensia.
Yeah, so it's just like it's just gone dead. It was a big fuss when the young lady was missing. They found her. She was found unalived, and now we're not hearing anything. It's like everybody's just quiet in Antigua regarding the young lady's death.
Hello?
So
Greg? Greg?
I'm not sure what is happening. Not sure what is happening. I'm going to read the next story from Antigua as well, and it says, Leah 20 to double workforce by year end, tourism minister said. It says the regional carrier Leah 2020 is preparing to double its workforce in Antigua and Barbuda by the end of the year as it ramps up operation and adds new aircraft to its fleet. Tourism Minister Charles Fernandez made the announcement in Parliament on Monday, revealing that the airline, which currently employs 95 staff at its Antigua base, expects that number to grow to approximately 200 before 2026. Wow. That's 105. Of the current workforce, 80 employees are Antigua nationals, with the remainder comprising of a mix of workers from Dominica, Trinidad, St. Vincent, Grenada, Montserrat, St. Martin, Ethiopia, and the United Kingdom. Notably, the airline's 12-member engineering team is entirely Antiguan. Fernandez shared the update in response to a query from leader of the opposition, Jamal Pringle, and highlighted the wider employment impact of the airline's growth. This number is expected to reach around 200 by the end of this year as more aircraft are added. By the way, this does not include indirect jobs locally, regionally. I think it's about 300 right through the region, he added. He also pointed to the progress being made in the pilot development, noting that 6 Antiguans are currently training to fly Liat's new jets and 4 nearing completion of their training. The government intends that for now these jets will be flown by these Antiguan pilots from Antigua and other OACS or Caribbean territories. Fernandez emphasized the importance of Liat 20 as a homegrown carrier in cementing Antigua and Barbuda's position as a regional aviation hub. The minister also reported strong tourism growth, noting that March 2025 saw a record number of air arrivals, surpassing the previous high recorded in March 2024. Overall arrivals in the first quarter of 2025 rose by 7.5% over 2019, the country's best pre-pandemic year. So, as we know, air travel became a problem whilst we were after COVID. We know almost all the airlines either filed for bankruptcy or claimed they couldn't do it anymore. So the airline industry is making a comeback, so we wish all the airlines that are going to make this comeback well. Wow. I am looking at another article. This time we'll go international. And this one says, Denmark's largest construction company returned keys of Tesla cars, says, we as a company have chosen, I guess, to end all business with Elon Musk. And the article goes on to say, the Danish construction firm Schörning has divested its entire Tesla fleet, citing Musk's political stance as the primary reason. So the Danish construction company has returned its entire corporate fleet of Tesla vehicles, citing Elon Musk as a reason. A report claims the company decision reportedly reflects a trend of declining Tesla sales and brand damage in Europe linked to the Tesla CEO Elon Musk's political involvement.
Yeah.
The company decision
Sorry
reportedly
about
reflects
that.
a trend of Tesla
We
sales.
have
Okay,
a caller.
caller, go ahead. You're live on Island T.
Good morning, guys.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys this morning?
Well, okay.
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Okay.
Yourself?
I'm good. Thanks be to God.
Okay.
Here's another story out of Antigua, Barbuda. I don't know if you heard this one, Cartencia. The protest with Development Bank.
Development Bank.
No, we were.
The Development Bank. It said Development Bank employee applied for 2 days vacation. She wanted the 14th and the 16th of May off.
Mm-hmm.
After she put in her request, she waited. She was approached by the general manager. The general manager on the 10th. That's on the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
The general manager asked her that she have to give a reason why she want the vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Which in for when you have to give a reason why you need a vacation. But she did comply and she did give the reason why she needed the vacation. They never responded to her, so she went to work on the 14th. She worked that day. Mm-hmm. She went back to work on the 16th. On the 16th, while she worked, around 10 o'clock, the general manager came to her and told her she must retract. She must retract her request for vacation. And if she don't write a retraction of the vacation request, she have to leave the building. So girl called the union, her union rep. Mm-hmm. The union rep tell her do not leave. Mm-hmm. The general manager insists she have to leave, so he help her escort out the building. The union come down, mm-hmm. and the union say, well, if she coming out, everybody coming out. So there's a protest. So kudos to the union.
Yeah. The union can work. The union can work as long as it is not aligned with the ruling system.
And they're never aligned.
Exactly.
They're never aligned.
They are aligned.
Mm-hmm. Not here.
In Antigua. They are aligned.
Okay.
In Antigua, no, because I've had, we have worked with them, and if it's one thing I do like with Antigua, minus the social security part, the union fight for you, and they're serious about it.
That is how it is supposed to be.
There's a story of a guy, presumably working at Sandals. He took one of the fancy champagne and hid it in the sand. Mm-hmm. Somebody see him do it, but they wait till he going back now to take it out to try to send him home. You know, the union say, no. When you had seen him put it there, you should have approached him then. You know, the man ended up keeping his job right.
Yeah, because we're not sure.
Because they said anybody could have put it there, and he
it.
Just go and see it and dig it up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good representation.
Yeah, they fight for you in Antigua. The union fights for you, and
thanks for that news. Thanks for that.
I just want to big up the union in Antigua for standing up for the workers.
Yes, big up the union in Antigua. Yeah, most definitely. That is the way how unions are supposed to function.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Congratulations to a bunch of our locals that would have graduated, and they're graduated with degrees in various bachelors, doctorates, etc., etc. So congratulations to all of you, and keep making St. Kitts and Nevis proud, and keep our names on the map.
Yeah.
We appreciate all the good you're doing when it comes to your education and your representation of our federation.
Yeah, let's take this call. Hello, caller. Hello?
Hello, Quinn.
Yes, go ahead.
You having a guest coming on now?
No. You can go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to make a call. Okay, I'd like to call in then.
You're on the air, yeah.
Okay.
Usually when you call, you're on the air. I only took you off because of our discussion. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. No problem. I would like to say this. Friend, You see, our politicians are taking the people of the Federation, like I've said before, constantly for a ride, for their political ends, for their political agendas. And I brought up a number of issues in the past where they accuse each other of criminal behaviors. Yes, I brought up some issues where they accuse each other of real criminal behaviors. And yet, when they get into government, all of them, when they get into government, they protect the others who they accuse of criminal activities. All sorts of criminal activities they accuse each other of. And you would think, okay, when they get in government, they're going to do something about it. They're going to lock them up. And they just even say, I'm going to lock them up and they need lock up and all sorts of stuff. But yet, when they get in power, in government, nothing happens. Everything just sweep under the rug.
Yeah.
Just sweep under the rug like nothing ever happened before. And it seems as though our people here love to be taken for a ride by the politicians. Love to be used by the politicians. The politicians wire them up, give them expectation that such and such going to get locked up and such, because of their criminal activity. And yet, like I said, when they get in government, nothing happens. It just shoo and go under the rug. And I think, and this is my opinion, I think that our politicians from ever since are a very terrible, evil, wicked set of people. Because I can't understand how well, I could understand because people acts are evil and wicked. But I can't understand how the people continually sell for this nonsense, lies, and being used by these terrible and bad politicians. And you are seeing before your eyes that they ain't doing nothing about it. They're just protecting each other. They're just protecting each other. So that is what I wanted to contribute today.
Yeah.
For now, maybe later I probably might contribute something else. Thank you, Quinn.
Okay. Take care.
When he says they're protecting each other, what does he mean? They're not holding them to the fire?
Yeah, that is basically what it means. Because we've heard it over and over again where the opposition will say, you did this and some really horrific things, and when we get in office, we're going to do that and we're going to ensure that. How many times have you heard that?
Nothing happened, huh?
And when they get in office, I've concluded that they don't do each other anything because they don't want to set a precedent, so that if I come in,
you give me a break, you give me a blight too.
Yeah, if I come in and I give you a break, then when you get it back in, you're going to keep it giving. So it's going to keep evolving like that. But if I lock you up, you better believe that when you get
locked up too.
Yes, you're it's gonna be a retaliative thing. So I have the feeling, I could be wrong, but I have the feeling that is the case.
Yeah.
Hello, caller.
Caller, good morning. You're live on LNT.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah.
Now, I was intrigued yesterday when Greg brought up the conversation about these people sexually molesting 13-year-old people. But this thing going on since in better days, you know. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that is what happened. Everybody coming for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, when you got, especially around election time, and the candidates take advantage of the constituents. Some of the people are looking for a little attention.
Yeah.
They take, I just call it prostitution. I mean, serious, you know? You wouldn't believe. You see them, you hear them. So this thing is not, it didn't just start down there. It started way back. There was one politician who used to boast how much young people made it take. Sure, partly took 100,
Serious? You're serious?
I don't call him. Somebody could call your name.
Well, don't call
Don't
him.
call her name,
but-
please,
but-
please. Thanks.
But
That's-
I can't believe a politician will be
But, I mean, it was known.
Okay.
To get a job, you had to get a job in the government service. You had to have a sexual thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, with that individual.
We still continue.
Yeah. But here it is, Sylvine, whether it started back in the prehistoric era and it continues now, what Greg is trying to emphasize is it's wrong. It was wrong,
Yeah,
it
but
is wrong, and
that's
it will
a
always be
cat.
wrong.
We'll belly cat.
Yeah, that is the question we are asking. It seems as if though it will not happen because
even this one you were talking about.
yeah,
I mean, it's a serious thing, you know.
yeah.
The child was in the children's home. So it might be good to do some more investigation.
Why do you think, though, the other issue that myself and Quint was talking about, where they give each other a slap on the wrist? So if I get in and I did something wrong,
others who had gone before had gotten away with it.
Mm.
And when you have one of them boasting, and it was known that if you wanted a job in the government, in the public service, you had to go by the office. You understand? I will call a joke with my sister. She went to the girls' high school, so when she left, she wasn't working at first. So my mother, good friend, trying to be helpful, said, well, why you don't just send her down by, as you call the minister name? My daughter was there, said, look, why you don't send down your one? Old lady was in shock. You know, so, I mean, look, I don't know which politician has not been, I'm trying to find the right word. They're married, they have women outside. So nobody setting an example.
Yeah.
And I always say, look,
But
we have
here,
left the plantation long enough to change our sexual behavior.
but here is another thing that Greg was putting emphasis on. Greg was saying he understands to some extent why and how the politicians will cover for one another, but what he does not understand is why society has been accepting this for so long. And I agree with him.
When you live in a poverty-stricken society,
because I was just going to ask, what can society do when those are the people to uphold the law? Even if we decide to protest or do
And when you-
anything.
But we
when
should,
you go for judgment,
but we should protest. and
we'll go for judgment.
that is
Every
not,
society, you go into the public service,
look,
top people doing it.
the issue is,
Police force, the top people doing it. There's nowhere to get justice.
Mm.
you see, if we consistently say there's no way to get justice, then we'll never solve the problem. I am saying,
That's true.
I am
That's true.
say-
But you see,
I am
everybody
saying-
looking at their own position. Eh?
and that is the problem. I am saying, when we know of these things and we know of these instances, there should be protest. There's no use in saying we won't
I'm
protest.
laws, but the laws, which lawyer? Lawyers are not guilty of it. You understand?
Look,
It is, where can you go for justice?
if it's one thing, you see, Sylvine, you remember Nigger House, Nigger Business? You know the reason why Nigger Business was popular back in its time?
It exposed what went on in the those above.
And you know why eventually the system eradicated things like Nigger Business?
I know, actually, you wouldn't believe. The people in government and society had the police, those who were acting,
Yeah.
had to take the script to the police station before they put on an action.
Yeah. That is what I'm saying.
You don't know that?
That is what I am saying. The system itself made sure that Nigger Business did not continue because it was exposing things. But you see,
Among a certain set of people.
you see,
And so every time they come out to play, they have to get somebody to write what they're going to say.
Yeah, and they did it with Calypso too. They started to say you must write your lyrics, send in your lyrics, because if your lyrics is hitting the present
And it still
system,
continue, you know.
that's what I'm saying. If your lyrics tend to hit the present system, then they won't let you go on to the next round
Even if you
or
go on,
compete.
you're gonna get knocked. As they say, you're gonna get knocked.
But
But they sing your heart out. They
but,
don't even bother school.
but Sylvine, this again shows how we as a society have retrogressed considerably. Our older folks knew why they had these things. They had these things to hold people accountable. And we in a so-called modern advanced society don't want people to be accountable. And if we don't want people to be accountable, then how then do we expect justice?
They want to, you know. Look, if you want to, I tell you, look, you want to. Your daughter come on and say, I went to thing today and Mr. So-and-so, right? Made a sexual approach to me. Now, you might say, let me going on the appointment, whatever. By the time you reach by the government headquarters gate, you can't even get to go in the building.
But Sylvine,
So you say, they're going to get a lawyer.
Sylvine, I am saying that it should not be as individual thing. It should be that, and that is what our society used to do. Society used to come. Look, I remember when Mr. Bacchus was manager here, right? And he told me something. Perhaps Hortensia can attest, or maybe she's too young to know this. He said, back when he was growing up, if you came from another village and came into in Guyana, and you came into his village or particular village, and you thought that you were a child molester, a bad man, or whatever, you could come into the village and you could start acting your way. But he said they would not wait for the police to deal with you, you know.
I don't know about that.
They would not wait for the police.
I'm like Jamaican too, you know.
They said, you come and you do your bad thing, some elders are going to find you wherever you live and have a little conversation with you. A cool conversation, you know. We think that you should.
But you see, when you
Sylvie,
are
let me finish the point. He said they would come to you and they would say, look, you see what you did the other day? Don't do it again, you hear? And you might think it's a joke, but next thing you know, they're going to deal with you. And that is how our society used to be once ago, but we aren't that way anymore. You
remember.
Yeah, you leave the individual. I mean, how does one individual fight a whole system? And the system knows it. Yeah.
So, my dear brother, and I don't understand the young girls that throwing themselves into it. I just say, when you sit at the political campaign, open solicitation goes on.
Look, we've had instances. I'm sure you remember an instance where a particular police got imprisonment because this young lady went to the police station for whatever. Either she did something wrong, and while she was in custody, he accosted her. He sexually molested her, and that came out. And unfortunately for her, and unfortunately for him, he did get some prison time. But we don't see that happening enough.
That is it, because they're going to start from down below. You know, you're going to destroy, you know, how it mind. You are the affected one, you know.
Yeah. And
if you pursue the matter, the man might lose his job.
Yeah.
And you know, that is how it is the reason, you know.
I remember the police commissioner at the time making a statement and saying, look, this is under investigation, but if we find out that he is guilty, we're going to deal with him. And that is what happened. But
the only person I know do that was C.G. Walwyn.
Yeah, well, it wasn't C.G. Walwyn, though, you know. Anyway.
All right, then.
Yeah.
So, Greg need to do some more investigation here, Greg.
Okay.
Because
yeah. Sorry about that. I thought you had finished your statement. Hello, caller? Hello?
Good morning.
Morning. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Mrs. Henry's finished?
Yes.
Yeah, she's done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I understand where she was coming from, with what she was saying. Didn't call any names, but we all knew them.
Yeah, we all
Okay.
knew them. I myself.
Right, and yeah, and it was on all sides of the political fence.
Yes.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is that, and this happens generally in other places as well, but I think it was taken to another level here.
Yeah.
Okay, it really boiled down to an abuse of power.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't know that anything can be done about it unless a person, you can call them victims, but in a lot of cases they are willing victims. Okay, whatever the circumstances, they put themselves in those positions, and they get abused.
Well, I think that you should be a little bit more clear on that, because people listening might think that you're saying that all of the individuals who get abused might be. So I want you to clarify that,
All the abuse might be what?
Might be willing abusers, have put in themselves in a position.
No, I think he
said
said some.
in some cases.
Okay,
Some cases,
okay.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
hear that. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I stand corrected.
They know exactly what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
know exactly what they're going for, and that's the way of, some people call it survival. Some,
Well, we hear that.
they call it all kinds of euphemism.
We hear that
But we
even
know what it is.
today. We hear of that even in families. Recently, the last 10 or so years, we've been hearing that mothers are enticing their daughters to do certain things to get certain materialistic things, and we've even heard where some mothers would see their daughters underage with certain expensive goods and take it from them and say, well, go back where you
could get next one.
Yeah, so you're right.
Yeah, and you know what is paradoxical? The fact that I am pretty. I wouldn't be surprised if our country doesn't have per capita the most churches
Yeah.
around.
I've
in our region.
spoken on that on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every corner there is a different church,
Yep.
and you would think, because a lot of them are occupied, a lot of the congregation, if you look at them, they are mostly female,
Yeah.
and you therefore have to wonder, is that a lot of them are occupied. The moral compass has something to that.
Yeah.
Okay, where it's practically acceptable. It's not
Yeah.
frowned upon as such. Okay, and so that's why I say, and this is not to let the people of power off the hook.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Well, let me give you a scenario. It is a sad scenario, but someone told me some time ago that a lot of the, as you said, and I agree, a lot of the members in the churches are women. Someone told me a long time ago that a lot of the women, when they have lived their lives and they have made mistakes, eventually they turn to Jesus, they get saved, they get in the church, and then a lot of them see the very same things that was happening in the outside in the world happening in the church. And he said he confronted a few of them, and he said, sadly, this is what a lot of them said to him: well, it happened to me. The world ain't easy. Life hard. And so, like you were saying, it seems that if to some extent it is accepted that, well, that's part of it. Seems sadly that a lot of women feel they have no other alternative but to accept it then, well, that is the way the world is today, so and that is sad.
Well, and the thing
Morning,
is,
guys.
and it's just not a matter of morality. And principle and personal responsibility and what they choose, how they choose to live their lives. it's not about that alone. A lot of it is because of economic circumstance as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Okay. So and that is why I said there's a lot of blame to go around for this scenario.
Yeah. There's
Because-
another caller on the line.
Yeah.
Good morning again.
Yeah.
No, Quincy, your last statement, that's like you said, that's a sad statement.
Yeah.
Very sad statement. And you said what I was going to say about some of the mothers. They see their daughter come home with stuff. You know, you didn't buy it for them,
Yeah.
but you don't ask your child, where did you get these expensive equipment? Where did you get phone? Where did you get ring? Where did you get this? Where did you get that?
Yeah.
The mothers encourage their daughter to go out and be with these men. And like you said, these things, like Miss Henry said, these things have been happening for so long. But we cannot continue for it to happen.
Okay, so both of you that
It
are
needs
on
to
the
be-
line, what can we do? Someone mentioned earlier that we can protest, but with us protesting, do you think it's going to bring some form of justice for any of the victims, or it's going to what
Well, the
what
thing
resolution
is-
can we protesting offer then? That's what I want to know.
Well, that's the whole point. What are you going to be protesting? Because, like I said, there is plenty of blame to go around, and usually, if you when you're in a protest, you can be essentially protesting against yourself as well. In the final analysis, I think it boils down to personal responsibility. What you want of your life, what your conscience tells you is the right thing to do. If you don't have a moral conscience, if you think that anything goes, and it's survival and that sort of thing, well, you can continue. I don't think any kind of protest is going to change that.
Well, I disagree
Okay.
with you. Caller,
but then-
caller, go ahead. The other caller.
I think you can protest. Nothing wrong with protesting. But then again, the law also fails.
What are
The
you
law is
protesting?
failing the young people.
No, but what are
Because
you protesting?
the law is failing the child. Because number one, if you have a child, you have a 13-year-old, 12-year-old, 10-year-old, they go to school, right? You see those kids show up pregnant or stuff like that. Don't you think it's the onus is on the law to find out who is this baby father? This is a baby herself. Who is the father? Who's the one that got this child pregnant? You know something I always tell myself when my daughter was young, I don't care if she lie down and she said, come. If she's underage and you way over age, I'm gonna lock you up. I don't care if she said come. Because you're supposed to know better.
But that is what the system says on paper, but the system doesn't consistently do it. Now here's to
know,
Mr. McMahon's question, what do you protest? Here, this is why a lot of times people don't take Greg seriously when he speaks. But a lot of time Greg makes sense, and a lot of sense. Greg's point is this: you do things for 9 days. Now he doesn't literally mean 9 days, but what he means is that even when you protest for short periods, and then you'd never do it again.
Forget about it.
What Greg is saying, and what I agree with, if you're going to protest, look, politicians are smart people. If politicians realize that you are consistent, they will change. But when politicians realize, like Greg and many others of us, that you only protest for short period, they're not going to change. I said on a prior program, we as a people have got to stop expecting and demanding. We expect if you expect your politicians to do good, and they have, as you said, Mr. McMahon, they have nefarious character, you can expect all you want. What you do is when they have bad character and they do bad things, you make sure you protest to the point that it makes them and their party feel uncomfortable enough so that they know, look, we will not continue these things, and over time it will stop. But it does not stop because you only do it for short periods, and they know it's going to go away.
But the justice system also failed because Cartesia brought up the case in Jamaica. Now, do you know that young man, when he was out on bail before he molested this one that he killed?
Yeah.
Do you know it was a 1-year-old that he raped?
What?
Mash up the poor little baby inside. It was a 1-year-old.
And they gave him bail? Madness.
Should he have been out on the street?
So that is the point.
Madness. He should not have gotten bail.
It was a 1-year-old family. Should he have been out on the street? No.
Wow.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. McMahon.
So the system failed.
What we are talking about in those specific cases is the low-hanging fruit. Those are the easy things to get at. The law is there to protect underage people.
Yes.
And generally, once it is the catch the perpetrator, they receive justice. That was not, I think, where we were going initially. It's easy to get at the low-hanging fruit. It's easy when something as outrageous as that happened, that 1-year-old or 13-year-old happened, to get up and protest that and have all kind of candlelight ceremonies and whatever else they normally have.
Yeah.
That's easy.
But
What's more difficult?
But do they do it as easy as it is? Do they do it? That's the thing.
When they're outraged enough to do it, we do have those kind of protests when something really outrageous happens, and then it goes away. That's why I ask, what do you protest? Are you going to be protesting a particular action or something that is endemic, right? And what I'm saying that what we should really be trying to get at is the general situation where there is an abuse of power. In that's an extreme case, but in other cases, okay.
But look at in our country, right? In St. Kitts Nevis, has there ever been anyone tried for what do you call pedophile? Where your parents, where your father sleep with the daughter, get the daughter pregnant? Have anyone ever been on trial for that? And we know we have a lot of incest. Oh yeah, incest is the word. We know we have a lot of incest in our country.
Look, let me give you an example.
That's true. The problem is burden of proof there. That's usually the problem.
Let me give you an example of what the last caller said. Some time ago, there was an instance in Antigua. That's some years ago in Antigua, where with the burning flames, where whatever problem they had in their family. One of the brothers accused, I think it was Onion, of molesting the family members, right? He actually put it in a song saying, Uncle so-and-so, so and so and so and so. And I remember an individual saying to me, and I was so angry, an individual saying to me, because Onion is very popular, the individual said to me, but that's family business. You should not have. You should not have bring out that. You understand what I'm saying?
And that's what we do in the Caribbean. Cover it up.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of children out there that the grandfather is the father.
Seriously,
Funny you mentioned that. Somebody told me that last night. Somebody's father is their grandfather as well.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. McMahon.
No, I was wondering if the difficulty is proving these things, right? They getting into court and proving them, right? And that's why.
Why is it difficult, Mr. McMahon?
How are you going to prove?
We have DNA.
Tell me how you prove something like this.
DNA, she said.
How you mean DNA? I mean, we have example where there was a very popular caller used to call in on WinFM, and that was like a sword. They used to abuse him every day and remind him that his father, that his mother father is his father, supposed to try that one on that young man.
So you're saying that if somebody is suspected of incest, they should automatically be given a DNA test.
Yes, do the DNA. Like we in modern time now. Come on.
How do you initiate that? Who initiates that?
But Mr.
That is our problem. That is our problem today.
Wouldn't it be one of the family members who would have to actually make an accusation?
Yes.
Yeah, those kinds of things.
That's true.
But Mr. McMahon, this is the point. Both of you are on a part that is not wrong. I understand what you're saying, and that is why I used the last example, because and the other caller corroborated it. When you have family, let me tell you, I'm a father. I have 2 daughters, 3 sons. I am telling you, maybe because I'm a realist, and realists take the facts even when it hits hard and it hurts. If my child, I suspect any family member of molesting my daughter, I would push it to the fullest extent. I know it would have repercussions on my daughter, but being the father I am, I will try to sit down with my daughter. And these are the things that we don't do as family, as parent. I would sit down with my daughter. I would say, look, babe, I know this is going to be a trying time for you, but this should not have happened to you, and I feel someone must pay for it, not only so that you would have some closure somewhere down the line, but also that this does not happen to other family members and other people. And this is where we drop the ball. We say,
no,
it's
but
I'm
suggesting, though, Quinn, that 99, probably, well, I don't know about 99, but certainly the vast majority of fathers would do the same thing you would do, would think like you. Because it isn't that I believe that a hell of a lot of fathers would be engaged in that kind of activity. I don't think so.
But how come it is so?
How do you catch? But how
come it is so? But how come it is so prevalent in our society? I disagree with you. I believe a lot of fathers.
How do we know?
Look, I believe.
How do we know it is? How do we know it is that prevalent?
Because we hear it.
We know of cases.
Because we hear it.
Cases, yes.
Because we hear it. We hear it in
exactly.
A lot of it is hush hush.
Yes, we hear it in the undercurrents of our society. We hear it in shushu talk. We hear it over and over. We hear it. Look, we hear it. We hear it.
You cannot convict.
Old people say
somebody on shushu talk. You cannot convict somebody on shushu talk.
Listen to me. To me. You the way you're going is like you're saying there's no way to deal with it. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
But what I'm saying.
Here's what I'm saying.
Is
old people
we
say.
Should make sure we have the correct way. Know what we're protesting. Know exactly how we should deal with this. Okay.
So how should we deal
the example
with it,
of the DNA is good. Yes. Okay. Now that we have DNA to the point where samples to the point where we can make definitive conclusion. But the initiation, that has to be done as well.
Mr.
Just by shushu is not enough.
A
lot of shushus sometimes are true.
Old people say,
of course, but sometimes they're wrong.
Old people say if you hear something over and over, there's some truth in it. Yep. But apart from that,
exactly, there's some truth to it.
Let me go back to the example you tried to use as a father. Let me tell you what usually happens, and it is a sad thing. A lot of fathers and a lot of mothers, we say we love our children, and we love them so much that when someone abuses our child, we try to protect the child by covering it up. It does not protect the child. That child is going to carry that wound forever, and that child is also going to feel. The child may never tell you, but the child may tell other family member or someone who they confide in, my father disappointed me, he failed me when he should have stood up for me. No one else believed me, and he covered it up. It's the same. My mother should have. You speak to the older people who have survived these things, and that is what they say over and over
Yeah.
again.
Parents didn't stand
That's
up for
right,
me.
Queen.
They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is why that is why I'm saying that it may, rather than look at this specifically in terms of sex crimes and so on, incest and so on, deal with abuse of power generally, because that is the bottom line. Okay, you see, you can for instance, people can make an argument that if it's between consenting adults, right, then anything goes. We should not interject our morality on consenting adults, right? That's their business, okay? And
I'm hanging up,
that
guys.
is where
Yeah.
that is where
I don't
that is
know.
where the quid pro quo.
Mr. McMahon,
Yeah.
I'm going to try to drop a call. I hope it isn't you.
Okay,
Let me see. You're still on?
I'm here.
Okay,
he's still
so
on.
it isn't you. Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, I'm saying that a lot of these things, not the incest and so on, and the underage people, which I understand now include boys. Once ago it used to be girls,
Yeah,
but now it seems as if it includes boys as well.
yes.
Okay, and but I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the what we started to talk about was the abuse by people in power.
Yes.
And there's a fine line between what you would call a quid pro quo and abuse, you know, because you can do things with a wink and a nod. It doesn't have to be open prostitution, say, okay? And do we have a right to speak out against that? Isn't that?
But Mr. McMahon, I don't even want you to go down that street because you're blurring the lines. We want to stay specific.
But that's
wait,
the whole
wait.
point. That is where we started.
Here is where I want us to stay on the line of those who do these things and they do it wrongly to innocent people. We're not going to try to broaden it too much and bring in too many
but that's the low-hanging
technicalities.
fruit.
Yeah.
That's the low-hanging fruit. That's easy. That is easy.
But
to deal
even
with, because
but you
when
said
when they are found out, they are dealt with.
not
The problem is
does
finding
not-
them out.
A lot of times it doesn't happen. We have another caller. Hello, caller.
Quint?
Yes.
Yes, it's me. Now, first of all, let me say, Quint, because the Bible is the truth, every time I speak in line with the Bible, I'm speaking the truth. Now, secondly, let me say this. Let me say this, Quint. The man who you spoke of who got in trouble because of the female reporting him, was that man a high society person?
Which I can't remember. What?
You said some female reported something to some police about some man. I don't know what was the issue. And the man got in problem.
I know I spoke to
You don't remember?
I know I spoke about the police who this person was locked up, and while they were on the bench or whatever overnight, this police took advantage of her and he got his just rewards. I don't know if that is the case. That is the only one I can recall.
Oh, when you say he got his just reward, you mean he was punished?
Yes, he did. The case went through and he was sentenced to prison.
Okay, but let me ask you, was that man a high society man?
He was a police officer.
He was a police officer.
That's
Okay,
not high
so
society enough.
Yeah, I would say to some extent that's
Depends-
kind of high
depends on your
society.
Yeah,
rank.
because
Depends on your rank.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
a police.
Depends on your rank.
Long time
But
police work.
also, yeah. Mr. McMahon still there?
Yeah. he
Yes,
is.
I'm here.
Yeah, Mr. McMahon, I have a question for you. The way things are looking right now, okay, do you think that that PM Joe is going to take any action against Timothy and his brother of all the criminal acts he have accused them of?
Right now, it seems
Yeah, the way things look right now.
unlikely, because I'm not sure what would be the hold up in a case like that. I mean, what I suspect is going to happen is that closer to election time, all of these things would be not prosecuted, but would be reintroduced with a view to swaying voters.
Yeah.
And that's really unfortunate, because basically what it's saying is, if things were actually done, if corrupt practices were actually done, there is no recourse. There's they essentially got away with it. Get away with it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Greg, when you seem to suggest that all the politicians seem to protect each other. They don't, you know, they don't prosecute each other to the full extent of the law. Okay?
Right.
And I actually remember saying this to Premier Brantley one time, that it seems as if all you guys are in collusion because y'all don't seem to hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
You know? And he basically said, who tell me that? Maybe it's done in private, essentially. But if you don't see it happening, you could only make one conclusion.
Yeah, I agree.
So the answer, the short answer is...
Mark, hold on. There's a saying that justice must not only be done, but it must be seen to be done.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I agree. And, you know, you mentioned something this morning about taking voters for a ride, taking the people for a ride. Unfortunately, that is the nature of our politics. It happens time and time again, and you know, and that's what that even goes back to what we're talking about, Quinn.
Yeah.
The problem is, how do you get a change of behavior?
Okay,
Right?
before we go any further, I think we're going to have to pick up this again because we're long overdue for a commercial break. Okay? So let me take that.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So let me take that bit of a commercial break and we'll be back.
Found the sound 98.9 WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Here are your Horseford's Value Mart IGA special.
Running May 1st to May 14th.
Now, our Value Club Blue Tag specials. Post Great Grain cereals, just $18.99. Essential Everyday Cream Cheeses, just $7.99 each. Stone Ridge Premium Ice Cream, $17.99. Terra Chips, just $15.99. Nabisco Ritz Chips and Crisp Thins, $17.99. Essential Everyday Canned Dog Food is just $8.69. And now, our very low weekly
Value deals. Essential Everyday Croutons, $6.99. Nature Valley Granola Bars, $12.99. Juicy Juice, 100% juice, $13.99. Extra Liquid Laundry Detergent, $12.99. Soft Soap Liquid Hand Soap, $6.99. Suave Deodorant, $8.99. Shop Smart, Shop Value Mart, tell them in Spanish.
sea listo y haga sus compras aquí en Value Mart.
Hey, have you heard about the
Supplegen is giving away 3 unforgettable shopping sprees valued at $1,200 each. Just shop and win. Spend $12 or more on Supplegen products at your favorite supermarket. Write your name and contact on the back of the bill and place them into the Supplegen entry form boxes. Enter as many times as you like. Promotion runs from April 1st to May 31st. Supplegen boosts you up.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Welcome to Island Tea with your faves. Keep it locked in with us for your daily dose of hot tea only on Win Media 98.9.
And we are back on Island Tea as we continue our discussion. If our callers want to call back, feel free to do so. But I really hope that there's something. I know this is not only a local problem, but it's a worldwide problem. But as we always say, if you see something, if you know something, speak up.
And when we speak about protests, people, when they hear the word protest, they think you're on the road with placards and whatever. But when you think back to, even let's go back to the days of slavery, our foreparents were very creative in the ways they protested, you know. The go-slow came from the slave workers, you know, in the field. They would make sure they moved so slow in getting the cotton or the cane or the whatever that it irritated the master. You understand? So that the master decided, okay, I'm going to see if I can appease them to some extent. You understand? So there's a go slow, there's writing, you understand? Writing to your different factions and letting them know on paper that you disagree with that. And when I say writing, I mean clubs and societies, not individuals. You understand what I'm saying? Like, for instance, if something happened with the Haynes Smith Club, has something happened in the village, the Haynes Smith Club would get together and maybe two other clubs from in the village, and they would get their president to write a script, and X amount of individuals sign off on it and send it to whatever institution or body or individual they wanted it to go to. And it sent a clear message that this wasn't just one individual, this was a whole. Look, that is one of the reasons why we had communities and community clubs and community factions, because they were ways of protecting society and letting the authorities know what society wanted. For instance, if a particular village wanted certain a community center in their vicinity, or a daycare center, or a health center, the community clubs and factions got together, and they were what you today would call the lobbyists. You understand? They would let their politician know this is what we want, and the politician for that constituency would know, okay, this is enough of the numbers in my constituency that I have to pay them some money. If I don't, I'm going to feel it on election day. So there are different ways to protest.
No, but in this case, I think we need to go out in the streets and protest.
I am not saying no, but I'm saying that there are different ways to protest. You can, use whatever means necessary to protest. That is what I'm saying. Hello, caller.
Yeah, Quinn, sorry about that. I'll try not to take long. You spoke earlier of churches and the nonsense that goes on in churches and corruption that goes on in churches. Now, one of the biggest reasons for that, it's not the only reason, but it's a very big reason for that, is because a lot of people who go to these churches, they just say, with the silly excuse, very foolish excuse, oh, me I go church to worship God, me not go church to watch nobody.
Yeah, that is
okay?
that is a very popular saying.
Right. Yeah, so the minister could be the biggest pervert and criminal. That no concern them, because they go church to worship God, not to watch anybody.
And another thing they like to say, don't watch the pastor, don't watch the other person, think about yourself, your own.
All those are stupid and foolish and dumb excuses, sinful excuses, to excuse what is wrong and evil and wicked. And these are reasons why, and there are others as well, why there's so much nonsense, wickedness, evilness, sinfulness, and you name it in the churches today, because the people excuse it with the silly excuse that me now watch nobody, me just handsome but go and worship God.
But hear this, this too, Greg, hear this too, using the church. This is where the church has failed miserably and is failing me. Do you remember when one of the biggest protests in our society used to come from the church? The church, anything that happened that was wrong, you better believe the pastor was going to preach on it.
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't happening now. The pastors pick sides. They pick if it's their political faction. Yeah. Pastors are going on the pulpit and telling their members, you better vote for X, better vote for, because if you want the country, you understand, if you want the country to progress, or they will say, under this so-and-so party, things going good. So they're leading their audience along.
Thank God I don't go to those churches. My church, my pastor is a sweetheart.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, but once you got there, used to speak out on the political issues.
Everything. Yeah.
And that was well, once you speak out on it in the right way and that sort of stuff, nothing was wrong with that. No, what's wrong with that? If you speak out on the issues, because the church is supposed to be the conscience of society. And when the church see wrong in society, it's supposed to speak out against it.
Yeah.
Okay? That you don't have today because what? It has become more money thing. And a lot of this nonsense come from TBN and all these other so-called Christian stations that have promoted. Hello?
What nonsense?
The money nonsense especially.
Yeah,
I remember nonsense, especially.
I remember when you remember Tammy. It was Tammy Baker. And you used to see her with her, and she's speaking, and she comes and she says, "Oh, my husband bought me this ring, and it cost me. This cost $5,000." And then when people started, she says, "Well, the Lord has blessed us, and the Lord is Teflor or Tyflor or whatever. Creflo or whatever. He gets a plane and he says, he goes on the pulpit and he says, the Lord, you should get your blessings from the Lord. You don't say that because I'm a Christian, I'm not entitled to a blessing. But a blessing of a jet, a big jet that costs millions of dollars, and members in your congregation are suffering and can't buy food and you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So
true.
That's
and a lot of them, Jesse Duplantis, man, you name them. Even those late founders, the man and the woman, I forgot the name, and the John and Paul Crouch. They were none but money grabbers. Telling you that if you sow this seed in the ministry, you're going to get back a certain amount, you're going to get back a lot more money from the Lord and get cars and all this stuff. Kenneth Copeland is a very big one again.
Yeah.
Kenneth Copeland with the jets and all this sort of stuff. This nonsense coming out with TBN that have corrupted. Let me tell you, TBN has done more damage to society than all the pornography put together.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go that deep. But I will agree with you that it has done a lot of damage to society because it set new precedents. It set examples that others decided they were going to follow.
Okay, fair enough. Because I was just going to say you don't have to follow the masses, as our parents
you don't
would tell
have
us.
to, but
you don't have to follow the masses.
People follow popularity. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Quinn.
Quinn. I wouldn't come down so hard on the churches, to be quite honest. Because, Quinn, if you like a particular artist or some genre of music, and you actually spend money and so on to get that entertainment, you don't see a problem with it, do you?
No.
So why would we then put a premium on or criticize the church
because we expect better of them? And for instance, let me
for instance, they are entertainers. They are. Provide spiritual.
No.
A lot of them are just entertainers.
Well, let's say some, not a lot. Some are real entertainers. You could just go to church and laugh because you're not going to get no word out of it.
I agree with Mr. McMahon 1%, 100%. Because they have the gift of the gab, they can convince people and they use it to the best of their ability.
And that's why you're the person, the follower.
It's just another entertainer, whether a comedian, whether a motivational speaker, whatever the other group like that. The fact is, they do provide, you can say they're providing a service. Now, you can question their morality in using God's word to essentially seduce the flock.
Yeah.
Right? But as far as they're concerned, they're providing spiritual guidance and support and all of that. And so I wouldn't particularly blame them. What I'm kind of against, though, but not so much against as disappointed in, is that so many people seem to fall for it. You know, that is the thing. Okay? That so many people.
But what else would you expect, Mr. McMahon, when the very same Bible says that you are the shepherd who leads the flock? The flock will follow the shepherd.
Yeah, but the flock's supposed to have common sense too. That's why you ask God for wisdom. And if the pastor start acting the fool and doing things that you know is not in right standing as the Bible or as what you should believe, then you just don't deal with that no more.
That is why we often hear about the sheep being the flock. We don't usually hear about the goat or the cow, because the sheep is known to be meek and to follow the flock.
Well, I would be the goat out of that sheep flock. I
don't think you would find one person in any church, going to any church, who feel that they're sheep, right? They would tell you that they chose this particular church for all kinds. It could be all kinds of reasons. It could be that their interpretation of biblical things, what is in line with theirs. It could be that they trust the particular pastor for whatever reason. Okay, so they can have all kinds of reasons and that's the whole point. That is why there are so many churches, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Because everybody seems to be searching for something to suit their individual sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And you will know that that individuals are different. And so yes, they're going to be church hopping and going from one to the next and trying to find their spirituality. And nothing's wrong with that. I mean, it's what makes them feel. If they eventually find it and stick with a particular denomination or church, then nothing is wrong with that. They found what they've been looking for, okay? But it's the abuse that happens in these situations.
Unfortunately,
that we don't like,
unfortunately, I have a meeting schedule, so I'm going to leave you in the hands of Hortensia. I'm going to have to cut the lines because she's not in Studio 1. I'm going to take a bit of a break, and we'll be right back. My apologies to the callers online.
No problem.
Okay.
All right, then.
Yeah. Okay.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Heritage matters to me. Heritage matters to you. Join me, Percival Hanley, this coming Friday and every other Friday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon for Heritage Matters on Win Media SKN 98.9. Heritage matters to me. Heritage matters to you.
Welcome to Island Tea with your faves, Keep it locked in with us for your daily dose of hot tea only on Win Media 98.9.
And we are back on Island Tea, and as Quint would have mentioned, the lines won't be open, but I'll still share a few international and local headlines with you as we continue down to the 10 o'clock hour. So I don't know how many of you would have known, but I saw some pedestrians, actually, some persons walking along the street in France. They foiled apparently what's happening over there is that they are kidnapping the family members of persons whose family member is in the cryptocurrency. So they're kidnapping them, holding them, and demanding ransom. I saw an article where one person that was rescued came back missing a finger. So I know the world is okay. So the lines are still gonna be open, callers. So, all right, caller, go ahead. You're live on Island T.
Hi, good morning, Hortensia. Good morning, Quinn.
Morning.
Is Mr. McMahon on the other line?
No, he's not. Because we initially announced that our lines won't be available, but they are available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he's not on. But he can always call once he hears what you're trying to ask him about.
Oh, no, not quite. But I just should switch over from my YouTube to calling.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to kind of juggle here. But I heard Mr. McMahon was explaining some of what actually church has become.
Mm-hmm.
And while fundraising is a worthy cause, and Mr. McMahon spoke about church, the charismatic nature of church and the way a preacher, a minister would come across. One has to remember that church history goes way back where it was more solemn, similar to how some of the churches conduct their services today, like the Catholic Church, not singling them out, or the Methodist or the Anglican churches. They were more solemn and based on a liturgy, And the charismatic, like the Pentecostal and the Baptist churches, came about. So yeah, we saw the crossover into that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, even church will have the reasons to raise funds for the upkeep of the building and the maintenance and so forth. Church has also become a real big business. You see, you can see those mega churches in the U.S. and other places of the world, Africa, where the church pastors had, aeroplanes, private jets, and the likes, and so many material things that has accumulated beyond what a church congregation would request for or require. So that is what church has become. But not to say I am knocking it because I grew up in a church, but I have really denounced it. After coming of age and being awoke and realizing that I was so lied by the church that me as an African person, I did not know God. We did not know God before the missionaries came. And there's a conundrum that we as African people who attend these churches and have accepted these things for so long, should I put away my Africanity, my African self? For instance, at one point in time, the ketejum was not a thing that the church would have allowed as an instrument in the church. And I was so elated when I passed up by the Hope Chapel on George Street in Newtown. I am from that community. And see the youngsters beating up the ketejum. because the catechism was something like of like pagan origin. And so these are the things I would have had to ask myself. Should I take off my African skin? Quinn said something the other day about, accepting the crumbs from the Lord's table. Quinn? Hello?
Hello?
Quinn is listening?
He's in a meeting at the moment, so he won't be in on the call. Yeah.
Okay. Quinn said something the other day about a song that he does not like. And there are other songs that I just, for the life of me, I cannot understand it. There's a song I grew up singing in church. I attended church a lot. And it's like, though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. The transformation from the sin being transformed from a scarlet color to a white color.
From red to white.
The sin still remains a sin. It's nowhere in that English grammar there you see that the sin was really eradicated. More so, that my interpretation, and from the English grammar that I grew up with school and learned, the sin was only transformed from a scarlet color to a white color. And so, like, how can we accept sin in general, irrespective of the color of the sin?
But the white sin, isn't that now the forgiveness? Isn't that what that is?
It remains a sin. The white sin is not.
No, the fact that it was moved from red to white, doesn't that make it a forgiven sin? We know it is sin, but
sin is a violation.
Yeah, but the fact it's forgiven, so it's gone. That's what
the sin remains. It's just that it transforms from a scarlet color to a white color. And so that is the psychology of accepting a sin, but not in its original color. It's been transformed to another color, but the sin remains the sin.
I understand what you're saying, but I was just trying to be an advocate to see maybe that's the forgiven part.
Yes, so around the conversation, I understand you too. But the sin remains a sin. Apostles will say, we was born in sin. I did not born in sin. I was born a pure child, spotless as a human being. Some of the things we inherited as we grow up and we become of age, and we put our hand in the pot and taste when the people making the Johnny cake, or something like sugar cake rather. Yeah, as we become of age, but sin is sin regardless. So a song like that has what to be revisited and be rejected, because sin is sin regardless. So here is it now. Those type of people who compose those songs, we wasn't a part of it. No, we wasn't a part of it to say we raise our voices and say no. Irrespective of the color of the thing, the sin is the violation. And irrespective of it was changed from a scarlet color to a white sin, it remains. And all sins are violations. Okay, thanks for listening.
Thank you. Well, we know that all sin is a violation, but that's why we say the Lord came to earth. He preached, he evangelized, he died for us, and he forgave our sin. And as you rightfully said, maybe the composers weren't thinking when they wrote the songs, but I just look at the white sin as a form of, turning from red to white as a form of your sin being forgiven, and I understand it will still remain a sin, but it's a forgiven sin. You did the sin, it's time to move on from that sin, so it became a forgiven sin. But you see, when it comes to, as I said, religion and politics, I really don't try to argue it, because it becomes a lot. It becomes tedious, because you see, until now we have not gotten anywhere with what are we to do about the persons who may or who are being, at this minute, somebody could may as well is being molested by a family member or some grown person that they know, or and what are we doing about that? Are we gonna continue to stay quiet? Are we gonna bring the perpetrators to justice? What are we doing? Are we teaching our children enough to what to look out for or what not to look out for? I know there is a running joke in where some people said in a particular culture, when these people get boy children, they drop them, but when they get girls, they praise them. I don't know how true is that. I will not say whose culture it is, but I'm sure most of us know whose it is. But yeah, that's what is said, and I don't know if it's true because I'm not part of the culture. I've not heard anyone from that culture say that, but that is that's what is said of that particular culture. And as we said, we know we didn't give our children those things. When we see children with expensive things, we need to question it. It makes no sense to take it from them and say, oh, you go and get another one from where you get this one from. You're basically pimping out your children. You're not allowing a child to be a child and grow as they're supposed to grow. Like I mentioned the article with the dad in Bahamas that's appealing his 27-year sentence. His older daughter that he abused for years said she did not know it was something wrong her dad was doing. She thought it was okay, but I guess the younger one know it's not okay, so she just spoke up and he got dealt with, and then the elder one testified, and I guess all of that added to his sentence. We see in the U.S., we see Mr. Kelly, he went down, he's gotten some years for abuse of women and trafficking, etc., etc. We see Sean Combs is on trial, senior is on trial for the exact same thing, and that's because somebody spoke up. And then of recent, I saw a next article where Smokey Robinson, some of his housekeepers are now speaking up. I don't know if there's any truth to that. I'm waiting for the development of that story. And then we notice where that big story break that we had with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine and all the young ladies that say they were trafficked and whatever, it's because people spoke out and something was done. So I think here in our federation, we should not be afraid to protest. We should not be afraid to speak out. We need to do what we need to do to stop what is happening. Because if our generation does not fight, or our generation does not speak up, protest to stop what is happening, then we are just encouraging and continuing the trend to happen. And folks need to be held accountable. Okay. Caller, good morning. You're live on Island Sea.
Yeah, I think that's a nice note to summarize it on. Just one question, though. There is a hotline for you to report these things, right? Do you know?
I am not sure, honestly speaking, I'm not sure. And if
Because
there is a hotline, how confidential is it? Because people don't want to talk for the fear of repercussions.
Well, the thing is, something that it is sensitive. Okay, we may say that people should speak out and etc. etc. But there needs to be a lot of confidentiality and so on involved here. So I would hope that there's a hotline that people can call, and if anything, that needs to be advertised more, because it's unlikely that somebody is just going to appear at the police station and say and accuse a relative of something as serious as this, okay, without proof. At least if there is a hotline, they can voice their concerns and give the authorities something to go on, I mean, just the mere fact that you're not sure, you and I are not sure that there's a hotline is cause for concern, because at the very least, you'd expect there to be something like that, as sensitive as that.
But I think you can just probably go to the social affairs department and make a formal complaint. I don't know how they follow up on that. Maybe I can ask somebody from that department to come in and have a conversation so we can get more in depth and be educated as to what happens when the complaint
Right, but
is given.
because if it is as endemic as some people feel, that means there are a lot of people out there who would not turn up at the social affairs department, right? Social welfare department. They won't, right? But they might be prepared to talk anonymously to a hotline and voice concerns and give a few specifics enough that it might not tell us who they are, who made the complaint, and so on. But at least it gives people who investigate these things something to go out to actually start some investigation on. You know, so yeah, they should advertise that hotline if anything.
There's an advertisement that comes on. I have to listen to it more in depth, but to find out if in terms of a report, where does one report such things? Because I swear I've never heard anything.
But the thing is, I am stressing the anonymity part of it, because that yes, it could be true, as you said. But what we're looking for is at least some kind of investigation. That if it does turn out to be something there, that it's at least investigated and dealt with. To a lighter thing though, in your what you pointed out about LIAT 2020, is it?
Yes.
Did they say in that report? Did they say that the company made a profit for the year?
No. They were just talking about hiring another 105 employees by
Right.
2026.
That implies that they anticipate growth, or but
There have been demands, and I can honestly say that the flights, from when they started to now, the flights have increased and they're pretty frequent. Yeah,
okay.
because remember after
But-
COVID, caller, we
Yeah,
had
right,
basically
yeah.
no way to get around.
Right. Yeah. But the bottom line is bottom line. Have they made a profit? Because you realize they have lots of competition now. I haven't heard the government.
I wouldn't
comment
say
recent-
the competition, not
No?
really competitioning, That's all I'm going to say.
Really? So you're saying
all I'm
like
saying.
Caribbean Airlines, what is it, Sunrise? what's
There
the
are a
other
lot
one?
more
Intercaribbean,
options. There are a lot more
Intercaribbean.
options. Let's say that. There are a lot more options. Yeah.
Right. Which suggests there's a market, right? And I haven't heard the government's comment on whether they think that we're at a point where we're satisfied that we have enough carriers in the region, connections in the region. Or I think everybody seems quiet about it. Maybe the silence is good. I don't know. Not even the public. You don't hear. Well, I haven't heard the public screaming about the service of late either. So maybe some.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was saying maybe something good is happening on the easy scale.
Or maybe we just accept what we have and work with it, because that's how we move. We make a bunch of noise and then we just quiet, as Greg would say.
No, I think if we couldn't get around and so on, people would have been screaming.
Okay.
And from all appearances, the prices are still high though, and you wonder if there isn't pressure shouldn't be borne on the shouldn't be brought to bear on the government to do something about the taxes still, because that is still an issue. If they're functioning in that environment and making a profit, that's fine, that's good, okay? And if the public is satisfied with the service, that's also good. But, it's interesting that it was a huge issue a year or two ago, and now it seems to have subsided. So I just wondered if everything was back to normal and things were going rosy and so on.
As you rightfully said, people are getting where they need to get, because you see people are being able to go back. For the revelers, they're able to go back to Carnival. For those who just want to go to vacation, because you have Sky High. I don't know if you know Sky High. That's a Dominican republic. That's one of their carriers.
Yeah. Right.
And a lot of our locals are quite interested in Santo Domingo, Punta
south?
Cana.
Do they go south?
Who, Sky High?
Yeah.
No, not that I know of. I know from here it's to the Dominican Republic. And then you have carriers like, as you said, Caribbean Airlines into Caribbean. You have Sunrise. They all connect you. Or you can go to the States and connect to some Caribbean island with the carrier that connects there. So I guess, as you rightfully said, if people didn't have options, you would have heard the hoopla. But they are a bit, quite an amount, including 20, because 20 is back and people are gravitating towards it. Yeah.
I mean, to double its staff in a year, that says something. And I think I saw something about there are going to be Antigua, Nigeria flights at the end of the year, operated by APs or something like that. I mean, so things seem to be really looking up.
You heard my first article. Are those people? What are those people coming for? Because you see the 900 Africans that the opposition is questioning in. I'm not trying to say people shouldn't come visit us, but I hope it's not what happened in 2022 with the people that came and now. Go ahead.
There's always that, but any connection, I think, with across the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, that does not involve going to Europe first, I think is good and really should be supported. I would think. Does it make you want to get deeper into the industry?
Not really. No. I want to sleep at nights. I don't want to have to bother my brain too much, man. I don't. I can't. Life from coming back from 2020 now to 2025 is like you have time to do absolutely nothing. And being in high-level positions, your brain is always working. I wonder how these people sleep at night. So I don't want to know. I'm okay. I like my bare minimum, and I enjoy what I do, and that's that. Yeah, I'm not
that's good. It's good. Yeah, so people should be satisfied.
Brain. Yeah.
Everybody shouldn't go after the race, the rat race, as they used to call it.
Yeah.
Some people are like their peace.
And I love mine. Love mine. So I won't be... No. Even people ask me all the time if I would go back and fly. No, I won't. But I would enjoy teaching people the ropes, but not to be like the person that's solely in the back.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Well, another thing we noticed that the ceilings, I guess since the air links are now so good, ceilings, people stop talking about this.
9 days
ferry
again.
Service. Huh?
I said 9 days again. Yeah, people, there's still talks, but they're quiet. You're not hearing a bunch of it.
Yeah, I wonder kind of ferry is. Hello?
Hi, you're still there.
I wonder how the Makana ferry is doing. If
I think Makana is still doing good. You don't think so?
Okay. I don't know.
I still hear.
Like I said,
I still see
there's
people.
No release. There's no release on the bottom line, so we don't know. But at least they're still work. It's still working. So that is good.
Yeah, I don't think people are going to put it down now, and that's a good connection. Because if you want to stop in Simbad, so some days you can, and then you continue your journey.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think people are going to stop for now. Caller, we have someone else on the line. Caller, go ahead. You're live on Island T.
Yes, morning again, Cousin Theo. Okay, I'm just calling about Africa. Africa was saying. No, this song that he quoted about being white as snow. Now, it's talking about forgiving our sins.
Yeah.
God's gonna purify us, wash us, clean us. And then he went on to say about the scripture that said we all are born in sin and shaped in iniquity. Yes, we are. And some of us, because we're born in sin because of our first father, Adam, that's sin. But some of us were born in sin literally. So when I quote that scripture, I always say literally, because if your mother and father were not married when you were conceived, you were born in sin. You were conceived in sin.
Literally.
But
Literally.
What that has to do with
So
the
when I
birth?
quote that scripture, I always say, literally, I was created in sin. I was born in sin. Literally.
What were you saying,
So
Carla?
Yeah, I was
Excuse
asking,
me?
what does that have to do? What does that have to do with the person who is born, though? That's not their fault.
Yeah, that's
What?
the part.
Repeat what you say.
What does that
repeat
have to do with the person that was conceived, the little baby?
But the word of God said we're born in sin.
Yeah.
We were born in it.
I always ponder on that, Mr. McMahon, because I didn't ask them to go and do that.
Yeah, but we didn't ask them, but that's like we didn't ask our mother and father to get together, but they created us in sin.
Yeah, but the little baby might say, I didn't ask them to do that. And as we just said, we didn't ask them to do that.
But that don't mean we wasn't born in it. We were born in it. We were born in it.
All right. So even if we were born in it, how are you saying that we should suffer because we were born in sin?
That's why we have a choice.
No, I'm not saying that. That is the furthest thing. That is why Jesus came and died for us, for Adam's sin. We don't have to continue to pay the penalty for that. He gave us a chance to wipe that away, to wash us white as snow, clean, if we give our life to him.
Yep. So we have a choice.
The sinners, not the babies. The baby's fine. You're saying, right?
Exactly, but remember, a baby cannot
choose,
confess, because a baby don't know it was born in sin. But we know. The parents know. But when you're the baby, you cannot confess your sin and ask for forgiveness. Can you? You can't. That is why even when you hear Catholic...
Even after you grow up, you don't pay for the sins of your parents, do you?
No, when you grow up, you don't go and say, God forgive me for becoming mother and father. Did what they did in
But
sin.
funny you would say that, caller. Why do we say the child gonna pay for the sins of the mother and the father? Why? What do we really mean?
Well, let us say, some people talk about generational curse.
Generations, right?
So I guess that's what they mean.
Yeah.
And we actually, human race pay because of Adam's sin. Because of Adam's sin, a death sentence was pronounced on us. Because remember when God created man, he didn't create man to die. He created man was supposed to stay in the garden and have sweet fellowship and communion with God.
Yeah.
But because of sin, we were thrown out of the garden and death was pronounced. But then here come the wonderful Jesus. He came again and he made a way for us to redeem us, to bring us back unto him. He died that we may have life again and have it more abundantly.
Amen.
Faith is such a beautiful thing. You know, it's good to have faith. You know,
because it said with
it at least gives us hope, right?
Yeah, because without it, it's
exactly,
impossible to please
the
God.
word says if it was in this life alone, you have hope, you'll be men most miserable. Can you imagine if this was it?
Boy.
Yeah. But still a lot of evil exists in the world, and you wonder, you have to wonder still why so many people do not think like you do, okay, and act their lives accordingly.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to spending it making life difficult for others. You know that
because that's because the thing is that we think a lot of people look at life the way we is now, and you just think you live, you eat, you drink, you party, you die. So what? They're not thinking of after. The word of God says after there is a judgment.
Yeah.
They're not thinking of the judgment.
It seems as if it seems as if less and less people believe in that there is life after, right?
Yeah.
And
some people could say
that's just to prove that the word of God is right, because it said in the last days, men gonna become lovers of themselves.
Yep.
A lot of people gonna denying the truth.
Yeah. And remember, too, a lot of people might say, oh, I hear my granny saying Jesus coming so long and he ain't come yet. So a lot of people ain't gonna want to follow the norms and believe. So.
But it's the same thing they did in the day of Noah. When Noah tell them the flood was going to come, oh, hush up, Noah.
Yeah,
Look how now you're talking about this flood. Just go sit down, Noah.
Look,
but Noah kept on building his ark, right? While they quit aside.
Exactly.
Whether you believe or not, I think the golden rule is something, whether you're a believer or not, I think the golden rule is something great to live by. You do unto others
as you want them to do
you
unto
have them
you.
do unto you, right? I mean, regardless of whether you're a Christian, Muslim, whatever denomination you are, I think if you live by that rule, things will be much better, right? You don't have to go into...
That is true. Respect each other.
Yeah, you know, that would solve so many problems. But again, it's not everybody who believes in that either.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true, yeah.
That
anyway.
is so true. Thank you for all your contributions today, callers.
Bye, guys.
Alrighty. Well, here's where we're going to bring our program to I don't want to say a screeching halt, but yeah, to the end. It's just about 4 minutes after the hour of 10. Thanks for tuning in as usual. Thanks for your comments, your observation. We appreciate you greatly here at Island T and at WinFM. And as someone mentioned, we need to hear some of the younger callers calling in. So I know most of you are at work, but if you're not, if you're vacationing and you want to contribute, please feel free to do so. We are the next generation and we need our voices to be heard. And remember, if you see something and say something, especially if it is not beneficial to the individual that it's happening to and they're afraid to use their own voice. It'll make us a better society and we'll have a better world for it until the Lord makes his appearance. Have a great day to everyone. Thanks for listening.
We're different. We're 98.9 Win FM.
The importance of copyright.